Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mech Spotlight. Today is going to be a bit of a special episode. We have a couple of treats for you today. First off, there was a recent update to Coyotes Missions. I think when you're watching this video, it was just the day or two before, I don't know, within the last week. That added, well, as you know, we don't get updates to that mod very often. So it's always a treat when we get an update. This time it added enemy ASFs, aerospace fighters. So now we got to look out for those, and you will actually see that come into play in the Endgame Battleground mission in this episode today. So that was pretty cool. It's the first time I've actually seen those. I haven't seen the enemy ASFs come into play in the my career playthrough yet, because I haven't recorded any new episodes since that update to the mod. Maybe I did one episode, but I hadn't come across any of the enemy ASFs yet. So having that happen in today's gameplay was a real treat. It's pretty cool. You'll have to watch and see. But anyways, so that's one treat that you have, a new update to Coyotes Missions. The second one, I have a special biome that we're going to be playing in today. This is an early access beta version of the upcoming update to VonBiomes. So this is agricultural lands, I believe is what it was called. Pretty cool biome. It's got like terraced fields of grain, so that you got like cliffs separating these big open fields. A fun map. There wasn't, I don't remember the Battleground one being anything too crazy or noticeable. It was kind of felt like more of a standard map, although that could be because we were playing in a heavy mist, and so it was kind of hard to see at a distance. But in the Groundwar, we had a little bit more visibility, and the biome, the map that it created, I felt like was really cool. So pay attention to that new biome coming soon to VonBiomes. We're taking a look at it here with the early access edition. So those are two special things related to mods that you're going to see today. The third one that I want to say is that this is quite possibly one of the most powerful builds that I have ever done with this set of mods. We've been using these same mods for a while now. I've tried a lot of really strong builds. This thing just about has it all. You got good sustained DPS. It's got good cooling. It's fast for a 90-ton assault. I mean, I like to keep them above 60 kph if I can. So if I hit above 60, I'm happy. So it's got that going for it. It's got a decent amount of armor. We're sitting at 624 armor total. So for this amount of firepower to have that much armor and speed is a real trifecta of just greatness. I love the Supernova anyways. It's a mech that I've always enjoyed a lot. Big fan of the Supernova. If I'm going for an assault energy build and I can pick any assault mech, it's in the top 3 for sure. This is the hero build, or maybe it was legendary, I don't remember. But in Mechwarrior 5 Mercs, it's basically always a hero, right? We don't really have heroes and legendaries like they do in Mechwarrior Online. So this is the Seraph. We'll go through the quirks in just a second. But I'll show you the model. If you're not familiar with it, this does come from, I think, just yet another clan mech, right? Or what is it? Anyways, this is from the yet another mods. Pretty cool model. I like it. It looks like a Supernova. You got these big fins on the arms. All your weapon hardpoints on the arms. Basically built off of kind of similar to a Marauder type torso build with the legs and everything. But yeah, I like it. The paint job, I just went with the Mechcon paint and then did black, red, and gray. Pretty standard for me. If I don't have anything special I want to do for a paint scheme, I kind of default to that color scheme on one of a number of these. I just didn't really like any of the hero paint schemes that much. You could always go with one of the clan builds if you want. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, I liked it. So as far as quirks go for this mech, obviously we're looking for laser energy build quirks, right? First off, you do get your clan quirk. That's standard with all clan mechs. Clan mechs are well, arguably overall superior mechs to Inner mechs, at least for the time period where they came in at. So you're getting a bunch of nice bonuses here. Enhanced IR and thermals. This just gives you better range on your infrared and thermals. Top speed modifier, turn speed modifier, acceleration modifier, so you get some mobility bonuses there. Sensor range bonus, 100 meters. It ain't nothing. 100 meters is nice to get, especially when you're stacking bonuses on sensor range, as we'll talk about in a minute. Weapon lock-on time modifier. We're not using that, obviously, with this build. You do have some economy stuff there that increase the cost of repairs as well as upkeep. Then you have incoming heat damage is increased by 25%, so pay attention to that. Especially with an energy build like this, heat is something you have to pay attention to, obviously. So taking extra heat damage, you really got to try to avoid getting hit with heat weapons like Inferno missiles or incendiary ammo. Yeah, there's not much else to say about that. Try not to take heat damage and pay close attention to your heat bar. Weapon spread radius doesn't matter for this build. Incoming damage to armor and structure is reduced, so that's nice, and you do get built-in case. But we don't have any ammo on this build, so we're not worried about that. Angled armor just reduces incoming damage to armor on your torso, which is nice. Improved targeting. This is for long-range weapons. That means any weapons with a tier 1 weapon has optimal range of 540 meters or more. These weapons easily get there. They have optimal range of 1250 on the tier 5s. I don't remember what the tier 1 is, but it's well over the 540. So this is giving our weapons, well, we do get another 200 meters sensor range bonus, predictive targeting as well. It doesn't really matter for this. We're not using ballistics. Weapon lock-on time modifier, again, doesn't matter for this build. Long-range weapon spread radius modifier, doesn't matter for this build. Weapon projectile speed, doesn't matter for this build. And long-range weapon beam duration, doesn't matter for this build. So if you do go with long-range weapons, this is a nice quirk to have. The only thing that we're really gaining from this, though, with this particular build, because these are continuous beam lasers, is the sensor range bonus. So not huge for this particular build, but it is a really nice quirk to have on a mech. We also have a Kimbo. This just helps with your it's for mechs that have weapons on their arms, essentially. This is giving you armor and structure bonuses. It also has some economy stuff there, so it's going to be a little more expensive. But at the end there, you're getting arms heat generation modifier, minus 5%. That's huge for this build. You're also getting range bonus to your optimal and max ranges, which is really nice for this build as well. Because as you'll see, this is arguably a sniper. But it really is effective at all ranges, essentially. But we'll talk more about that. You do get your hero armor here because it is a hero variant, so you're getting armor bonuses to your head, right arm, left arm, and center torso. And then you are also getting structure bonuses to right torso, right leg, left leg. So the structure and the armor is being split up between different components, but you are getting both armor and structure bonuses there. And then finally, the hero quirk, Seraph, is giving you, this is really one of the main reasons other than the fact that I just love supernovas for energy builds, this is one of the main reasons I chose this particular variant and this mech to do this build. Heat is an issue with continuous beam lasers. No matter which way you run it, you always have to worry about heat. I haven't found a build yet that really just completely negates the heat. So with that said, I went for a mech that had some nice heat bonuses in their quirks. This is one of the only mechs I know of that gives you a heat capacity modifier. I can't even think of any others. There probably are one or two other mechs that have that in their quirk as well. But as far as assault mechs go, I mean, this is it. So you're getting a heat capacity modifier of +6. Nothing to sneeze at there. You're also getting weapon range again, which we like with this build. Weapon ammo modifier doesn't matter here because we're not using ammo, but if you are using, let's say, an AMS with ammo or so, or I don't know if the AMS actually I guess that counts as a weapon, right? So I think you would get the ammo modifier for that as well. But then cooling efficiency, this is the big one. You'll see we're stacking a lot of heat sinks on this build. The cooling efficiency modifier +20% is one of the main reasons this build actually works on this mech. So that is huge. The heat capacity modifier, the range, and the cooling efficiency. Okay, those are our quirks. Let's talk about the actual build here. So like I said already, and as you've seen, we're using continuous beam lasers. These are continuous beam large lasers. This new pulse laser has way more range than most other laser systems and fires in a continuous beam. Its damage output, however, leaves a lot to be desired from a 6-ton weapon system, and the heat output is also concerningly high as well. General traits, continuous beam, obviously, and sniper. It is a long-range weapon, so you can snipe with this, and I do snipe with this in the gameplay that you're going to see a little bit, not completely, and I'll talk about that in a second, because it is so effective. This build is effective at basically short range, mid-range, long range, so you can do it all. Damage at max range is 20%, so it's a bit low, but you know, keep that in mind. And then your max range is also 1.5 times the optimal range. Your optimal range is 1250. So you got a really healthy amount of range on this thing. And we have good sensor range to go with it. I'll show you how we got that. But yeah, so 6 of the continuous beam lasers is what I could fit on here, 3 on each arm, obviously. And then we did throw a laser AMS on there as well for defensive support. I went with the clan laser AMS. I went with the laser one because I didn't want to have to try and fit ammo on the mech. So this way I don't have to worry about ammo. There are better AMS, obviously, that can destroy more missiles per second. But without having to worry about ammo, this is pretty much the best option in my opinion. I wasn't too worried about the heat that it added, honestly. Our cooling was effective enough. So I will say there is another laser that we have access to that is also continuous beam with the yet another revamped weapons mod. That is the hyper laser. So you have an option, and this is a bigger laser than than the continuous beam large laser. Okay, the hyper laser, where'd it go? Right there. You know, you got 8 tons, 5 slots. Obviously, a difference there. It's an extremely high-powered experimental laser with very long range. Again, that long range, although it is a little bit shorter range than the continuous beam lasers. So that's another reason why I like the continuous beam large lasers instead, was that extra range. And it explodes when destroyed. Capable of swapping between a hyperburst and a continuous hyper beam as different firing modes. So this is where you're getting that with the revamped weapons mod. Your secondary fire mode is a beam mode. So this gives you the continuous beam with minus 60% heat, also minus 60% damage. Unique trait, since this firing mode has no cooldown or beam duration, the damage scales higher with higher tiered variants. Sure. So I tried this build with both the hyper lasers and the continuous beam large lasers. If you use the hyper lasers, I think I could only fit 4 of them on the build because of their size difference, but the continuous beam lasers only take up 2 slots, so I could fit all 3 of them on each arm, and they're only 6 tons each. So you are a little limited. I think with the hyper lasers, I did 1 on each arm and then 1 on each torso. I can't remember for sure. I have the build saved. We could always look at it, but point being, actually, you know what? Let's look at that real quick. Hyper laser build, yes. Yeah, so I had to do side torsos, arms, but you can see the damage takes a hit, your damage per second, but it is higher damage. I played them both. They felt very similar. So honestly, you could go with either. If you're playing a mech that has less hard points, go with the hyper lasers because you want to use the most out of those hard points that you can get. This mech obviously has plenty of energy hard points, so I went with the continuous beam large lasers instead. These are, I think in the end, this build was the superior build because I was able to fit the laser overcharge modules on this build, which just increases the effectiveness of these weapons. Without that, because at first I did not have that on the build, I did this build, I don't remember what day exactly, within the last week when I was doing a live stream of building new mechs and whatnot. There was a suggestion that we try continuous beam lasers. So this is what I came up with. We tried both the hyper lasers, continuous beam lasers, a couple different builds. This was the best one. So I ended up going with the continuous beam large lasers. Very effective weapons, but they are very hot, as they said. So main thing here is cooling. We needed laser insulators on each arm. I already mentioned laser overcharge modules. These give you laser cooldown modifier, laser heat generation, laser damage modifier, range, and beam duration. Beam duration doesn't matter here, cooldown doesn't matter here, but the heat generation and the range and the damage modifier are huge for us on this build. So well worth it. I mean, the damage modifier alone of 12.5%, that's a big bonus to damage output. And then the heat generation. Oh, it increases heat gen. I'm sorry. That's right. These weapons increase the heat generation, but then we have the laser insulator to decrease the heat generation by 5%. So really, these are only increasing your heat generation by 15%, not 20%, thanks to the laser insulators being on there as well. Really nice to have, though. Yeah. That's, you know, with only a lower arm in hand, we didn't have access to any of the cooling items for the arms. You do have access, because of the legs, you can go upper leg, thermal transfer duct. I've used these before. You'd have to find an extra ton, so obviously the way you would do that, if you were going to throw those on there, is to just remove a prototype heatsink, right? Remove one of the heat sinks. This does increase your cooling by 0.04, so barely increases your cooling, but your heat goes up by 0.3. So you're gaining way more heat than you are with the cooling. Not an effective trade there, or an efficient trade, so let's just revert. So having the heatsink, I found, was the better option there. That's why I did not do the thermal transfer ducts there. I couldn't figure out what else I would drop in order to fit those on there. I suppose you could drop the AMS if you decided you didn't want the AMS, then you could throw those on there as well. And go all into your offensive ability and not so much into your defense. You could also drop the probe. It's not super important. I like having the probe, so I wanted to have it on there, but if you don't care that much about the probe, drop that. I would definitely keep the ECM, though. I think having some defensive ability here is important. This mech does have basically maxed armor. We took 2 points off the head and 2 points off each leg, but that was it. So it's not the heaviest armor in the world, but you are just about at your max capacity of armor. You are getting bonuses to armor as well. A little bit of bonus there from the quirks. So it's got defense because of the armor, the ECM, the laser AMS. We went with Slick Sweep for some more evasion there. So it's got defensive ability here. The main thing is just dealing with the heat. After that, you've got your offensive ability. I mean, you're pushing over 50 damage per second, which is insane because this is sustained DPS. With the cooling that I have set up on this, the way this build is set up, you can probably hold down your trigger on these weapons as an alpha strike for close to 10 seconds before your heat buildup gets too much. So that gives you plenty of time. I mean, that's over 500 damage that you're pumping out within 10 seconds. Really, really powerful. It's all pinpoint damage because these are laser weapons. So unlike some other weapons like LBX-20s, let's say, they pump out a lot of damage, but it's spread damage. They don't, I guess you can go solid slug, which still does a lot of damage, but these lasers are going to be insanely powerful with pinpoint damage doing over 54 damage per second. You're cutting through even the toughest of mechs really quick. Stone Rhinos. What was the other one that I saw in matches? There's some big Annihilator. I think I took down an Annihilator or two really quick. This thing will cut through a CT in a matter of seconds on just about any mech that isn't running hardened armor. Yeah, powerful laser cutter build. Probably one of the best that I have ever played, especially recently with these mods in particular. Very, very powerful weapon systems when you stack them together like this. Again, let's talk about the heat, though. That is the biggest concern with this build, although it is fairly manageable with this build unless you're in a hot biome. Like I said, you can go up to probably about 10 seconds or so, depending on the biome you're in, without needing to let off the trigger, which is very good for a continuous beam laser build. Obviously, we went with the Exchanger Mark II, always have that on a hot build. And then I went with prototype heat sinks. Prototype heat sinks, if you're not familiar with them, they basically, well, it's unlike double heat sinks used by Star League and after the War of 3039. These prototype units were smaller. As an experiment, they worked adequately, but their use of liquid heavy metals instead of the safer, if larger radiators used in SLDF double heat sinks meant that they have been highly unstable. Basically what that means is they can explode. So if you take a crit and it hits your heat sink, it can explode and do even more damage to you. Not great, But the reason we use these is because every single one of these heat sinks that we have on here, and you can see we stacked, what is that, 8 of them plus 2 in the engine. So we got 10 of them on here. Each one drops our heat generation by 2%. That is amazing. But the thing you got to watch out for is that they do have an activation. When your heat level goes above 87.5%, that will activate. And while it's it doesn't deactivate again until it drops below 70%, your heat does. And during that time, you have a failure chance on the heat sinks. The failure chance is 0.2%, so it's not huge. The damage on failure is small. So you can definitely take a few failures and it's not going to be a big deal. You'll just be taking a little of internal damage there. But I have found that these actually are not too bad. I've run them while activated for pretty good amounts of time, extended periods of time, and not seen them fail at all. Other times you'll see them fail after only being activated for a few seconds. That's just kind of the RNG nature of it, but it's really not too bad. 0.2% is decent. Definitely worth having though because of the heat reduction that you get. Now, as far as your kit goes, I did the same thing. I went with the prototype heatsink kit. A little bit different on the stats there. You do have, it activates above 90%. So you have a little bit higher threshold there, which is great because its failure chance per second is a little bit higher at 0.3%. And it deactivates when it goes below 65%, which is a little bit lower than the 70% on the heatsinks themselves. So do keep in mind, the kit is a little bit different. The kit will damage your CT because it's in the CT. And then with this build, if our heat sinks have a failure, you're going to see the damage happen on your side torsos, obviously. You do have other options for heatsink kits that do similar things, like so you can go with the prototype. That's what we have. You could also go with like a radical. This is a little bit different. It only dissipates extra heat while it's active, but it does have the same failure chance and a larger window that it's activated in. You can go with the radical double heatsink. Again, this is kind of the same thing, right? Or you got radical proto double heatsink. So this is the most similar one to the prototype heatsink kit that we're using, because it does kind of the same thing where it's just reducing weapon heat generation. It's a really big bonus. You can see the one we're using gives us 20%. So it's the same 20% that you're getting. So that's really nice to have. The reason I use the prototype instead of the radical is basically just because the failure chance is lower and the activation window is much smaller. And overall, I just feel like the prototype one is better. I mean, radical, you also get minus 100% engine heat sinks, so you have no engine heat sinks. That doesn't seem like that's going to help a whole lot. So things like that. I mean, you are getting bonus heat dissipation while it is active, but because of the higher failure chance in the larger window, where, I mean, you have to drop your heat all the way back down to 30% or lower before you can deactivate it, right? So that's why I go with the prototype heatsink kit. I like its activation period. I like the benefits of it with the lower number of what do you call that? Side effects or whatever. So that's what I go with for cooling. You can see that actually gets us down to a pretty manageable level, 7.8 with a cooling of 3.8. It's not the best, but it is definitely manageable. I didn't have too much trouble with it. I originally actually had more cooling on this mech, on this build, and then I dropped the cooling to add the laser overcharge modules because I felt like it was cooling too much and that we were going to be able to do just fine with the overcharge modules. So after tweaking it a little bit for that, I think we got the perfect build here. Unless you're just running in hot biomes all the time, you really don't have to pay that close attention to your heat, which is a crazy thing to say for a build with 6 continuous beam large lasers. But that's how it is. As far as heat, we're also running FCS, Nova FCS to help with heat generation. That's minus 8%. And then we have retrofit support in the cockpit for heat. Sensors, we went with sniper sensors. Because this build is actually an effective sniper. You'll see me snipe with it a little bit in the gameplay because of the long range that these weapons have, and the sensor range that we have because of the sensor range bonuses and the equipment we're using. 2.3 kilometer sensor range is an insanely good sensor range. Throw on top of that the fact that our continuous beam large lasers have a range that can almost reach that far at max range. You don't see it here because this just shows the optimal range for both stats. But, you know, what would you be gaining? 625. So on top of that, you're almost 1,900 meters for your max range, right? Really, really good pinpoint damage at that range. You will see me take mechs down at close to that maximum range in really good time, actually. In fact, in the Groundwar, you'll see the very first mech that I take out, I'm sniping, and it's a special one. So pay attention to that. I've never done that before in a Groundwar, but it was helpful. Yeah, fun stuff. This build, I think, like I mentioned before, it's effective at all ranges, really. So you'll see in my gameplay, I didn't worry too much about my armor. I mean, I have a decent amount of armor, and I was just having too much fun to sit back and snipe. So I would start hitting them from a really long distance as I'm closing in, but I basically just kept closing in, went into mid-range and then close-range combat with them, brawled a little bit. This mech really can do it all. The way that it's set up, the way these weapons work, the build, it's a good all-around mech. If you want to brawl with it, you can brawl with it. It's good at taking out light mechs that are swarming you. You'll see that happen in which one was it? I guess in the Battleground. I think we had a swarm come in. I may be thinking of a different mission that I played, but it's, yeah, lots of light mechs. There were definitely a lot of light mechs in that match. So you'll see how effective it is at taking out fast little mechs. You can also brawl with the assault mechs. You're gonna burn through. I mean, when you're at closer range, you can really target individual components of your enemies and just tear them apart. If you want to take legs out, you can easily do that. If you want to pull off their arms, you can easily do that. You can even pull off headshots with this mech. At closer ranges, really easy. Mid ranges, it's really effective. Long range, obviously, it's going to be really effective. This is just a fun, all-around, very powerful mech to play. If you like laser builds, laser cutter builds, this is pretty much the ultimate laser cutter build that I have ever created or played. So, let me know what you guys think. I mean, the only other stuff left to say really is that we threw a mobility gyro in there because I wanted to be at least 60 kph, and the biggest engine I could fit was the 300 engine core. And we do have the Clan XL engine with that, of course. But you know, 60 kph on a 90-ton assault mech with this amount of firepower and decent armor and defensive ability thanks to our ECM and our laser AMS. Even the active probe giving us a little bit more ability to snipe. This thing just does it all. In the end, I just threw on patchworks. You can see tier 1 on each arm, tier 2 on each leg, and a tier 3 on each side torso, just to gain back some weight savings there so that we could add some more cooling. The heat was the biggest concern here, but I think I got it into a really good spot as far as our heat management. Like I said, if you're running in hotter biomes, it will be a little bit of a problem, but for just average heat biomes as well as colder biomes, this mech absolutely wrecks. It will melt faces. Have fun with it. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, hope to see you again next time. Till then, have a good one.
The weather's really kicking up, Commander. Your visibility will be limited out there.
Attention. Prepare for battle mech departure. Warning. Hangar doors opening. Stand clear.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems phenomenal.
Supernova 2 here. We are under heavy fire. Requiring immediate support. Over.
Ghost. Data transfer complete.
Target destroyed. Critical. Annihilator.
Relocating. Holding a designated position.
Made it to your requested location, sir. Order complete.
Target destroyed.
Data transfer complete. Filing a detonator.
targeted mech is falling apart.
Destroyed.